Hello Math 1 students. This lesson is on learning target 4.a, which is identifying and naming segments. Okay, so we have a lot of definitions here. I'm going to try and go through them quickly and try and be as thorough as possible. So first, before we can define a line or a segment, we have to know what a point is. And a point is basically a location, okay? So whenever we want to locate something, we plot a point. Now these points have neither shape or size. So no matter how big or small your point is, right, all it does is identify location. Now anytime we have a point, we want to name it. And we name it using just a capital letter. So if I wanted to name this point, I would name it point P with a capital P. If I wanted to name this point, capital M, right? So a point just gives you a location. Now if we take a bunch of points and we put them together, right? If we take a bunch of points and we put them together, we can connect them. When we connect them, we can get a line. So a line is basically made up of points, right, and has no thickness. So we say a line is made up of points, and when you smush them all together, right, for instance, the line down here, if I took and plotted every single point on this line, right, and I didn't skip one, what happens is we get the solid line that this would create. Now, lines are not measurable. And the reason is because they extend in both directions, right, to basically infinity. So when we look, we have the arrows on the ends because it tells us it goes in both those directions forever and ever. Since it never stops, we cannot measure it. Now to name a line, we can use 2 points with a line symbol above them, and that's just an arrow pointing in both directions. Okay, we could also use the word line accompanied by the lowercase italicized letter that is not a point. That is not a point on the line. Okay, so when I look at the 2 lines I have here, if I wanted to name this first line, since this is not a point on the line, this is not on the line, that is the name of the line, we could name this line R. But I could also use 2 points on the line. So I can say line AB, or I could reverse the order, line BA. Several different ways to name this line. Next, if I look at the next one, right, here's that lowercase italicized letter. So I can name this line P if I wanted to. But then I could also take any 2 points off the line. So I can take A and G, and I can name this line AG. And basically, if I draw a line through it, that's what it would tell me. So line GE is another way to name it. I can use E and B, so line EB. I can go the other direction and say EA. So I can pick any 2 points in any order that are on the line, and I can go ahead and write them with the line symbol above them. Now, a segment, right? A segment is a measurable, right? And this is the key part. A measurable part of a line that consists of 2 points called the endpoints. So when I look here, right, this whole thing is a line. And when the arrows point in both directions, you get a line. But if I identify 2 points on the line, and then I highlight just the points that connect those endpoints, what I get is I get a segment here. And the thing about a segment is it starts here and it ends here, which makes it measurable. Okay, so basically this segment has two endpoints and includes all the points that are technically on the line in between these two endpoints. Now we name a segment using the two endpoints, right, with the segment symbol above. Because it starts and stops, we don't put arrows on the ends. So if I wanted to name this segment here, I can name it AB with the segment bar above it, or I can name it BA. Either way. Now array, very similarly, right, is the part of a line consisting of a point on the line called the endpoint, right, of the array together with all the collinear points on one side of the endpoint. So when I look here, I have this line right here that extends in both directions forever and ever. If I pick one point to be the endpoint, so in this case I'll say B. If I take all the points to one side of that endpoint, what this gives me is from here to here, it gives me a array. So the array consists of all the points on a line that lie to one side of that endpoint, right? And that gives us array. Now we name array using the endpoint first. That's the most important part. With a point on the array, with a point the array goes through, and the symbol, an arrow pointing to the right all the time. The arrow pointing to the right does not tell me, right, which way the array goes. It's just a way of naming. The endpoint going first is what helps me with that. So if I wanted to name this array, we start at B. B is the endpoint, so that must go first. We can name this BE, right? Because if I start at B and I go through E forever and ever, right, it goes in that direction. I could also name it BA because I start at B and I go through A, and it includes the same set of points. So right there we have a line, a segment, and array in different ways to name them. So the first example, determine if the figure is a segment, line, or array. Then we're going to name that segment, line, or array appropriately. So the first one is actually neither of those, right? This here is just a point. Whoop. This here is just a point. And we just name it with the capital letter. You can say F or you can say point F. Now the next one is a array. Because if I look, it starts here and it goes in one direction forever and ever. So that's array. When we name it, we have to start with the endpoint. So we start with the endpoint H, and it goes from H through P. So we call it HP with the array symbol above it. When I look at C, this has two endpoints. It doesn't extend in any direction forever and ever. So it starts at R, ends at F. That there is a segment. In a segment, how we name it, using the two endpoints, RF with the segment bar above it. Next, if I look, the arrow here and the arrow here tell me it extends in both directions forever and ever. Therefore, that there is a line. We could actually name this line one of three ways, right? I can name it DM with a line symbol above. I can say MD, or I can say line K. I can name that three different ways, because remember, K is not a point on that line. So next, when we look at these, we want to translate, meaning, what are they giving us? Are they giving us a segment, a line, array? And then we want to kind of construct what they're talking about. So here, I know this symbol tells me it's a segment. So this is segment GF. And if I were to construct segment GF, I have to have two endpoints. I know their names are going to be G and F, and I draw the part of the line between them. The next one, what does this symbol give me? An arrow in both directions is a line. So I know I'm going to plot 2 points. I'm going to construct a line through them. I'm going to name those 2 points M and T. Now I have to put these arrows on the end because it's a line. Next, this symbol is a ray. So that's basically telling me ray AX. So I know my end point of the ray is always that first letter. So I know it's endpoint A, and then I have a ray going to one side, and it goes through point X. Okay? Now, when I translate this next one, it says point P, because P is a point, lies on, this symbol here tells me segment RX. So if I draw a segment RX, my two endpoints are R and X, and I'm going to plot 1 point on there and call it P. All right, so being able to read and write, right, using these symbols is very important. So when we look at example 2, they give us a ray, and they want us to or an angle. They want us to name the 2 rays that make up that angle. So if I start at J, this ray goes through L, so it's ray JL pointing to the right. My other one is going to be ray JN, like such. All right. Now, name BS 2 different ways, right? So if I look, this is a ray. That's array BS. So we know it starts at B and it goes through S. So when I look at it, I know both my other names have to start with the endpoint B. But what other points does this ray go through? It goes through B and F. And then it starts at B and it also goes through C. So there's 2 different ways that I can name that ray. Next, if I look here, segment WA, so that's WA, plus segment AZ, right? What do they add up to? Well, if I combine the yellow and the blue, what does it give me? It gives me segment WZ. That plays a major role, right, in the next section. All right? So now the next one. Name a ray that point V is on. So if I look, here's point V, and it's on this ray. Since it's on that ray, how would we name it? Well, we know the end point of that ray is U, so we have to start with U, and it goes through Q. So ray UQ, or you could say ray UV. If I look, there are several segments in this diagram, but when I look at the overall diagram, the one they're looking for is this major segment, which is PR. Then name the line that contains point T. If I find point T, it's here. That is this line here. And I can pick any 2 points on a line. I can say line SQ with the line symbol above. I can say line QT with the line symbol above. All right. I can flip-flop the order of those. TQ, line TS. I can use any of those. All right. So, next one. Name the rays that make up line, that's a line, AC. So here's line AC. Well, if I look, one ray that makes it up is BA. Another one that makes it up is BC, right? So we could say ray BA and ray BC make up that line. Okay, name a point on Remember, that tells us a segment. So when I look at segment FD, F to D, I could say point B is on that segment. What's another way to name ray AB? Well, when I go to name ray AB, here's A, here's B. It tells me it extends to the right forever and ever. Therefore, AB also goes through C, so we're going to name it endpoint A through point C and my ray symbol. Name all the points on line M. So here's my lowercase m. That's the line they're referring to. There are 3 points on that line, points A, B, and C. Then where does line AC, right? Line AC intersect segment FD. So here's AC, segment FD. They intersect at point B. You don't have to write point. You can just put B if you wanted to. All right. Go ahead, try the homework or the student practice, and let us know if you have any questions.